Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Contracts Committee meeting for Friday, April 24th, 2026 of the West Costa Unified School District. I am calling this meeting to session at 9:17. In a few minutes, we'll begin the public comment. The public, I can hear it. In a few minutes, we'll begin the public comment. Agenda item, members of the public are invited to speak. The time allotted for each speaker is 2 minutes. In the meantime, we are moving on to the rest of our opening procedures. Mandated neighbor acknowledgement. We recognize that we are on the lands of the Chochenyo, Mawetamar, Caribbean, Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants as the land we currently occupy. Neighbor and body acknowledgement. I acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systematic injustice falls upon the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. I remember that Black and brown bodies were born and died working this land against their will for generations. I also acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today, of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, forced, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. Author Dr. Rochelle Rogers Art. So can I get a roll call?
Court Gonzalez.
Good morning, President.
Board President Danielle.
Good morning, everyone present. We'll do introductions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gunter Fleischman. I'm the summer director.
Good morning, Lashanti Smith, Director of School Planning.
Morning, everyone. Francisco Ortiz, educators. Mark Mitchell, Executive Director of United Teachers Commission.
Christine Gamcatcher, CCS Coordinator for West Contra Unified School District, sitting today representing WCCA, the administrators in the district.
Pedro Gadano, Teamster.
Mary Kitchen, Business Services.
Jeff Carter, Acting Associate Superintendent of Business Services.
Rosa Green, Executive Assistant to Superintendent.
And Cheryl Hopkins, Superintendent.
Well, I want public comment. The public comment period is a safe space where diverse viewpoints may be expressed in a civil manner without interruption of intimidation. Please listen attentively to each speaker's comment and respect the time as if it were your own. Be open to different points of view of what is offered. Due to the Brown Act, board members that discuss items that are not on the agenda do not usually respond to items presented during public comment. Is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, the approval of minutes for April 17, 2026 and April 21st, 2026. So, with no, changes, presented, the minutes have been approved. So now moving on to the purpose, outcomes, and structure and processes of the committee.
Thank you. The purpose of the committee is to create transparency with our community, and also hopefully to find savings in our contracts. At each meeting, Mr. Carter, our acting CBO, and cabinet members will present all unrestricted and restricted contracts within the 4 and the 5,000 object codes for the current school year. After the spreadsheet for the contracts is shared, we will review each contract one by one. The presenting cabinet member will provide an overview of the contract, including its purpose, funding source, and key details. Following the presentation, the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions. We will begin with our labor partners and then move to our board members. After questions, we will open the floor for discussion. During this time, each labor group may share their perspective on whether they support maintaining the contract or recommending its elimination in the future. Once all perspectives have been shared, the superintendent will offer her recommendation. Labor groups will then indicate their position using a thumbs up to keep the contract, thumbs down, eliminate the contract, or neutral, no opinion or unsure. President Yanina will then determine how to proceed with the recommendation to the full board. Any disagreements, whether from labor or board members, will be clearly noted. Ultimately, the recommendation brought forward to the full board will be determined by the 2 board members of the committee. We will repeat this process for each contract. Some items may move quickly, while others may require more in-depth discussion or be tabled for additional. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we'll move on to now the contracts for review. So the committee will be reviewing contracts for the following departments: community engagement and, Ed.
And President, before we move on, we are going to be taking a 15-minute break, a strict 15-minute break at 10 o'clock. For the committee to be able to go see the opening ceremony for the Special Olympics here on Pinole Valley High School. And unfortunately, we'll miss the rest of it. We're only gonna go for 15 minutes because Fiona, we really need to finish today quite a bit. I also want to acknowledge that we do need to finish community engagement and hopefully special education, but we have probably more contracts than we've reviewed so far just today. So I want us to keep that in mind as we ask questions and make comments. Mr. Fleshman, did you want to say something?
I was just,
Sorry, Dr. Fleshman.
if we do, wrap by noon, the closing ceremony is at about 12 o'clock as well, so we may be able to catch the.
Some folks may be.
Sorry, guys. Some people may be able to get out for the closing ceremony.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. So should we move on to community engagement?
Yeah, so we've done the first two already, and then, Lashante will go into the final.
Good morning, everyone. So for community engagement, we left off on Clarity Social Research Group, and last meeting, I said I would get more information about what this contract actually is and what it was meant to do. So Clarity Research Group is a group that collects all of our qualitative data from our community school site and puts it into more of a quantitative kind of form in order to make meaning of what is happening at our community schools. Clarity Social Research Group is not the group that does our end of year reporting. They are just kind of throughout the year working with sites, working with site teams to collect data.
Okay, questions? No questions? Okay, any discussion on this item? Kim?
We have a lot of research groups in this program. Is there a reason we don't do anything in-house for all of this?
What I was told is just the capacity of the team in being able to, because a lot of the community schools work is not quantified in any way. And so in order to like make meaning of what's happening on the site, they use this particular group to support with like data gathering and then turning that data into, again, like a measurable report that goes back to school site. I'm not sure.
Student information, or is it just general data?
It's like general. So for instance, there was a hopes and dreams survey that was done. We had, like, 26 community schools with all qualitative data around hopes and dreams and their experiences and what have you. So this group was actually the group that put together that full report that was presented to all of our sites, our communities, our families around kind of next steps from that. That's one example, but it's not student data. It's the non-student data.
Who has access to this data?
Sorry,
Who has access to the data?
what do you mean?
Is it just psychologists, contractors? Who does this? Who has the access to the data to make the distributions and design the reports?
Oh, it's non-identifiable. So it's all of the qualitative data that's coming from our sites around practices and themes, but it's not identifiable back to the student. So everyone can have access to the reports as well. Yeah. Some of this was actually used in our all-student Congress when they initially were deciding around kind of their steps and what they were going to do. They used that hopes and dreams initial data.
Any additional questions? I have a couple questions. Even though the contracts are for 156,000, we haven't used 109. So are we gonna see large savings in this contract? And are we gonna reduce it next year?
Yes.
Okay, how much are we gonna reduce it to next year?
So I think it can be reduced by half. How it works is they only charge us when they're actually collecting data and putting together some type of report that might be needed for school site. And so in conversations with folks who are more familiar with the group, that's what I found, is that we haven't used it all, and that we don't need that full amount for next year.
And is this not something our school community directors could do?
This has been something that is not able to be lifted at the site from our field at this level of data analysis. Yeah, the level.
And you said the data has been used at student congress. What else has been used for?
It's informed our LCAP planning. It's informed the AIP that each community school is required to do. And then for the site level data, it informs their SPSA, it informs their site level data. And that data report that I gave an example of is one thing they've done, but there are some sites who would say, like, you know, we just implemented this strategy and we want to find out more around the impact. And so they would support in gathering and comparing. They also supported in comparing our California Healthy Kids Survey data to district schools. I'm sorry, the entire district, and then comparing that to community school below. They kind of just did a higher level. But I don't think the 150 is understood.
Okay, that's good. Good to hear. Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you. Well, just one question from Deb. So, has this group been collecting and, analyzing and synthesizing the data since the first year of the cohort?
Yeah, I believe this group has had a contract. Maybe Mary can check. I can go look.
Just my question around that, if we're expecting not to exhaust the entire budgeted amount, and if they provided longitudinal data, whether it would make sense to hold it off for the first or for the following year, since it would be the first 5 years of the implementation of the program.
That was brought up last time around, just keeping it at this amount for one more year. Again, I don't think we're gonna spend that amount, but because we've had this group for the duration of the grant, it would be like data.
What I'm thinking is, as we have sat here on several Fridays and a Tuesday, 3 Fridays and a Tuesday, is a lot of the programs that we have require some sort of analysis of data. And that as a district, West Contra Costa is expending a lot of money towards data analysis, and putting together information, like disaggregating data and putting together reports. So at what point does the district decide that maybe we need a more robust kind of research analysis department, and keep those dollars in-house? And as I have heard my colleague ask, every single time it comes up around collecting the data, where's that information going? Are they collecting student data? Which is really around control of information and keeping that information within the district. At some point, maybe we need to think about having a more robust department with people who are actually qualified and trained, manning that department, keeping that information in-house, which then alleviates concern that information is going elsewhere, and really being intentional about using it. So it's not necessarily a question for LaShonda, and I understand she's presenting for a department that isn't necessarily hers, and so I don't feel that I wouldn't ask her to speak to that particular thing, but I did just kind of want to raise the question that at some point I think we need to consider when we add all of those dollars up, it's actually pretty significant, the amount of money that's being spent on that as a service. So I just wanted to get that on the record, I think. As WCCA would support that. I know we don't want to keep creating positions, but I think that's actually dollars well spent.
Only having that, and we've eliminated all those positions.
Over time, you mean like
In the last 3 years.
Last 3 years.
Last 3 years, we've eliminated those positions, so that, of course, they can be contracted out. And that's exactly what we're here for, is because we find that our positions are being contracted out. And that's continuously going forward, and we're giving data to people, whether it has students' information in it or not, regarding our district that we could be utilizing in-house rather than taking outside.
Under the kind of age of information breaches, we just want to really kind of be mindful of
Yeah,
that.
that's why I keep asking the question. House Bill 87 is very much focused on that piece of it for students and ourselves. Because data breaches are consistently happening, but the same data is going to multiple locations over and over, causing so much overload in access.
I think that there's a few things to consider. One is, not necessarily an addition of people, but within the reorganization for, central office, we are creating that research assessment and data, group. Again, not addition of folks, but trying to really focus in on that data piece and what we can do internally. That being said, we also have a number of grants from going in and out of multiple departments that do have reporting requirements.
Right.
And so balancing that and making sure that we have either the internal capacity and we can grow with our reorganization, or, really being mindful of, when we need a contract, when we need to go out for these services and support.
Oh, no worries. I was gonna ask you a question. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, no.
Hello?
Yeah, I was gonna ask similar question about as Christine, just because even just within this department, we might have Clarity Social Research, but we also have the Glenn Price Group, right, that supports and leads some meetings, but then also with the grant writing, right? So I think that we have a lot of contracts that do similar things. Or did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, can we just jump to Glenn Price too? Because maybe these should have been lumped.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
why don't you speak on that?
Yeah, so Glenn Price does not do any research. They are pure grant writing. And so the 40,000 you see, there's nothing that's been spent because they haven't written any grants for us this year. And so they only charge us once they write a grant. They also actively look at grants to see which grants are coming out and which grants the district would be should apply for, would be really competitive and getting. But that is what Glenn Price Group does.
Yeah, I mean, I thank you for mentioning that. I just think that if you add both those contracts alone, is $200,000,
Yeah.
right? 196,000. So that could pay for the full salary of an administrator, even. I mean, it's just certificated employee. No, it's maybe not admin. Shoot. I'm sorry. I mean, good, but for a certificated employee, right, which we've heard Mr. Carter talk is about 180,000 on average. That could be data analysis / grant writing, right? So I mean, I share the same concerns, and I mean, it's good to hear that we can cut it in half, but could we just move that to support the work that you're thinking about for a full-time position to support the grant writing and research data analysis?
I think specifically for this work, because it's been on this 5-year cycle, 4 and 5-year cycle, I think we should continue this I think we should reduce and continue this grant. With the caveat of either revisit or not continue it after 26 days.
Okay, any additional discussion?
I just want to answer the question. This is the first year of that.
With clarity research.
This is our first year.
So they're not up here. Those are two for the rest.
Well, let's look at, well, she just.
Was it, were they under different?
I don't know if they were a different company name. I can only look under that company.
I know there's always been research done for the grant, and so perhaps it was a different research group. But there's always been research, and I know I went and tried to explore further around what actual reports were given from this group, and that's where I found out about. Oh, you're right. They did public profit. Yeah.
So the work has been happening every year, it's just that we
Switch
switched.
Contra has been with us for years.
Okay, so the superintendent's recommendation and Ashante's on the table is to reduce it in half for 78,000 for next year. But continuing the work for another year, and keeping the Glen Price group contract on its own. Any last discussion on those two items before we move to a vote? Do a group.
Karen, what does Glen Price Group focus on?
They're grant writing.
What kind of grant writing? Are they only community engagement grant writing or other areas also? Obviously, looking at all these contracts, we need some more grants,
Yeah, they're,
especially with bus services and maybe different technology.
yeah,
We haven't got there yet, but we're cutting more, so I mean, and listening to the board meetings, we're cutting more. Can they?
Yeah.
Work with other areas, not just community engagement?
so Glen Price is for, community schools and really implementing that strategy to full fidelity, and a part of community schools encompasses academics, it encompasses, SEL, it encompasses anything. So yeah, they can write a grant that our district would be very competitive for in practically any area.
And just to be clear, last year we did have contract with Glen Price for I think 250. And we reduced it, the board pushed to reduce it because they're very expensive. They're a very expensive contractor for the work that they do, in my opinion. I love, push back on that, but that's my observation. So then last year we reduced it to this because they were offering additional services. And the board said, no, let's just keep it to purely community schools grant writing.
Alright,
But in that, there's academic grants that they sometimes will say, like, you'll be really competitive for this. There's grants around, again, SEL supports, there's a lot of different,
we're just thinking towards the loss of our yard and elementary school reports that really engage the students or your community schools directors.
yeah.
If there was a way to write a grant or get a grant to support their services more so. Yeah, that's what I was looking towards. Not just for the directors and working towards research and ultimately. Engagement.
Okay, since there's no more discussion, let's move to the vote from labor on the proposal to reduce it in half to 78,000 and keep the Glen Price contract as is. Yes. So we're doing both the Clarity contract, which is the one we're reducing, and then keeping the Glen Price at the 40,000. Yes, Teamsters. Thank you, brother. I know it's your first one, you're doing great.
No, I'll go with it, because basically, administrators who have been on it and stuff like that, I have some concerns that were brought up and didn't feel got answered, but I do appreciate that it is being cut down and being restructured for the next year, so that's.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So we'll move forward with that. Thank you.
The last one is
Yeah.
the community schools learning exchange. So you'll see this as community initiatives and community school learning exchange. They had a name change, but it's the same group. So CSLX provides capacity building and training for our community school teacher leads. And they also do work around just the community school model and implementation of the strategies at the different school sites. And they also provide the professional development that our scouts, our CSTLs, our community school directors participate in.
Questions? Francisco?
Have they been working with all student Congress as well? Supporting any of that work?
I don't know that they've been directly working with all student Congress, but I know that there was a meeting yesterday for the Community Schools Support Collaborative. And out of that was the idea before the end of the school year to create a toolkit for community schools. And with that toolkit, I'm going back to some of the work from the All Student Congress and including that in the toolkit around youth voice and youth engagement at our kids' school site.
Any additional questions? There was something on the other side. Okay, any discussion? Chrissy?
I feel like I'm ringing the same bell. I just find it really, it's really difficult to sit, I guess, as an educator, to think that we don't have people currently within our organization that are qualified and or trained to do this work. Or if not, how are we not putting forth this as an opportunity to train people and move into this work? Absolutely, the irony, right? We're in contract, of course, everything we're talking about is a contract. But I think the education for me is how many of these things can we actually do? I know the superintendent said there is a reorganization that is happening and looking at how to best utilize the resources that we have and reallocating them differently, tapping into the talents and or abilities of personnel that we currently have to meet this need. I mean, I just feel like, I believe educators can do anything. And so I have to believe that we have within our organization, that we have the capacity and ability to do this. It would take some time. I get to identify who these individuals or groups of people are, but I just want it on record. I think it is so important. I think it goes a long way towards saying to not just our community of educators in the classroom, that's those that support people in the classroom, whether they're at central office at the site, as well as our community, that we take seriously the education of people who are here and really building like longevity. And we're really trying to build and sustain a functional, effective district. And it's not directed at any one particular thing, but I think I'm really struck by that. What has been most salient to me in these discussions is I think the missed opportunities that we have to really build our organization into something that's really strong and effective and does the work, for kids. They're our clients. So I'm really hopeful and encouraged by the superintendent saying we're going to reorg and we're really going to look at that. And I just want to hold us to that. But as we've spent 3 Fridays and a Tuesday here, that we've actually followed through on that promise.
I have a question with this contract. So where it says, continue service on the actual contract, are they talking right here, it says community school leadership meeting, like a 2-day training, August 6th to 7th. Was this the training that they offered teachers last year at Richmond High?
That was a training that was supposed, I don't believe that training.
So just can you clarify that?
The one that didn't occur?
The one that occurred last year, average height, was that the same one?
The one that happened last year was at, Deanza. And then, there was supposed to be one this school year, and it did not occur.
They said it did 2 days, so what training was this, the 6th and the 7th? Where was this training?
I don't believe we were, charged for that. I believe that that was what the contract was supposed to be for. But that training on the 6th and the 7th did not happen this year.
This says 2024, that was where that. It says 2024 on it. That's what
Twenty
happened.
twenty-four, it happened in, at Deanza High School.
It was.
Yeah.
Oh, that was not that.
So we haven't spent 56,000 out of the 75,000 on this one. So are we,
There's still, invoices that
oh, they haven't
haven't,
charged us for it?
yeah,
Okay,
they've continued with us since January.
So the first line of 75,000 was, we spent the 18,750 and then we closed it. And then we reopened it under this new school learning exchange. And so that difference, that 56,250 that wasn't spent, was what got opened here. So combined, that's your 75,000. So this is one company that changed
They
in the
changed
middle of the year.
oh, okay,
So it's total 75,000. We closed it and opened it at 56. So there's really only 18,750 left. Invoice for the rest of the year.
got
That's
it,
75. It's not 75 plus 56.
that makes sense, thank you for clarifying. I did want to just acknowledge, I think, we are spending a lot of community schools funding, I think, on outsourcing work. So I would love, obviously, as you give us your recommendation, if briefly just talk about like maybe your vision for community schools specifically. I know you talked about the reorg, but I agree with Christine. It seems like a lot of missed opportunity, not just in general, but specifically for community schools. Like, we are outsourcing so much, not just the research, the grant writing, like the leading the meetings, right? Like what's it called? I'm so sorry, our foundation, Ed Fund, right? We're not seeing here. They're also part of that, right? We talked about it in a previous meeting, right? So it's like, I don't even know how much at this point, right? We're spending on outsourcing work that I think that we should absolutely do here. Like, even if we had a community schools director, coordinator, whatever we want to call it, right? That was leading some of that work. It could potentially actually save us money at this point. So I would love to just hear more of that vision. Obviously, I'm not recommending to eliminate it, but I do think it's important to say, right? Just feels that way after reviewing all of this. That's it.
Can I add to that before you answer, Cheryl? So this is one of those contracts that I also with Christine, and I think I've reiterated that with many contracts, like, where's there an end date to this contract? Because I think this is supposed to be like a support mechanism to like train, staff to get everybody under that umbrella of community schools, getting everybody talking the same talk and moving the same direction. So are we envisioning an end date to some of these things that we could potentially now start doing on our own? Because my experience is that we bring in so many people to consult that then we're just following the lead and we're not building the capacity in-house. And we're just always relying that there's someone there to support with this, and we're not actually learning how to do this on our own because we have that reliance on, hey, we're just contracting out. So with that being said, I want to see an end date to a lot of these contracts.
And to follow up your comment, every single time we bring a contractor up, we're bringing somebody from the outside into our schools. That always carries an unforeseen risk, whether small, we don't know. The other thing is, we're missing the opportunity to train somebody when we have consultants from somebody from in the district to be able to take that position in a year or two. That's the nourishment that this district needs. We need to build within ourselves the things that we need. We need to start filling the positions that we're contracting out in-house so that we can grow as a district. Otherwise, we're gonna see our contracts expand more and more and have to do more layoffs and more layoffs in order to pay for it. In those layoffs, sometimes it'll hurt the students because we all sometimes have to end programs in order to be able to pay for the contracts. That's the way I see it, and all these are missed opportunity. They've been saying, and basically we need to make sure that we think about keeping it in-house, growing as a district, not shrinking as a district.
We'll go Lashante and then Superintendent, and then we'll move on.
Yes, I think, and I know our superintendent will talk about this, but I think that this is an opportunity. Again, we talked about it, we looked at the SEL contract. This is an opportunity to come together to look at like, what are our goals and who are these providers and who are these contractors and what was the intended outcome. I do believe that we can build internal structures, but I think it starts with like looking at each of these different providers. And again, that vision, like what is our vision for community schools? I think a lot of the community schools work is student facing, right, and family facing. And so I think there is a real opportunity along with that kind of work group that we're putting together around social emotional learning contracts to, again, really thoughtfully think about how do we build the internal structures. I agree with what's being said. If we continue to contract out, I agree with Christine when she said the internal, like who are the internal people who can hold the work and do the training and look at the data. And I think like long term, that is the vision. And I know I've heard from superintendent that is the vision. So I think there is an end date to it. And I think this is a good time to reimagine how we're doing.
I think my last comment to this
Yeah.
is, no, my last comment to this, because I know we got time. My last comment to this is also the stability, right? I know that sometimes it's like, and I've heard it in different spaces, I think as long as I've been here, like sometimes we train our staff and then our staff leaves. But I think the working environment kind of speaks to that, right? Like people stay where they feel they're part of things, right? So I think changing that narrative, but also noticing that with some of these contracts, these aren't contracts that we control. And when I say that is because our budget controls it. Like if we really built the capacity of our staff, we know that we have some sort of control over these people and who we're training. So we're not just training one person, we're training a group of people that can kind of hold that work. But the day they up their price, are we gonna be able to maintain this contract? Or are we now gonna have to pick or move on to someone else? So it's also the same sustainability of whatever we're trying to implement. And that's, they're kind of controlling it. Like if next year they come and they're saying, hey, life is expensive, now we want X amount more, we can't control that. So it's just like, they're kind of controlling what we're doing. So I really do believe that we need to train our staff, train more than one person. It has to be many people that can actually step in when somebody's stepping out.
First off, I have a quick question, Jeff and Mary. What is the end date for this? Talk about end date.
I'm sorry, say it
What is
again?
the end date for this contract?
The dates on, community initiatives, it's probably through 6:30.
6/30/26.
When is this year?
But then we review it for next year. That's not, what when I mean end date, I mean, when are we gonna get rid of this contract? Not when does this contract end,
So
but
I also think that I agree very much with Christine. How do we build our own capacity? That's what I think from your statement to advance this work without contractors. That is an important step for us. I also think that we need to come with some discernment. There are some of our vendors, some of the folks that we work with, our community partners, that provide a service that we don't. Seneca in particular provides a service in terms of their work with, their particular type of work with students that we don't have that capacity in-house to do at this moment. There are some folks out there who have perfected this work. And I think that we need to approach that with some discernment. And so where is that expertise? How do we grow that expertise within? And if we can't, or if there is a group that does it better than anybody else that we possibly could, how do we build our capacity when working with them? So we do have these long-term contracts with the ACR. what is it that they're doing that we should be, and I see that with Kathy. Kathy is kind of gleaning everything that people are doing, and she's applying that and making connections with folks. I think that's the direction that we need to head. But I think again, we need to build capacity within so that we can get away from most of these contracts. We do also need to be discerning enough to know what is an expertise that we simply don't. And that's even true with Teamsters. There's some folks out there, some jobs that in-house, we do not have that expertise. It's rare, but there's some jobs that we simply don't have. And so where is it, we need to be, I think, more discerning so that we're not just saying yes to everything, but why are we saying yes to this? And how is this gonna benefit our students? More so than what we can do with them. So I think it's a balance.
But I think going back to what you're talking about, it is, I think there's some specialties when we're talking about the big chunks, right? Mental health is one of those things that it's not gonna change overnight. But I think even with like a lot of the contracts that we have with data people who are looking at data, who are kind of, I mean, how does the data not overlap? I think that's my question, because we have one contract here that's picking up all this data. We have another contract here that is some of the same data, so it's just like, who then within the district is also looking at the overpopulation of data that then we don't know what to do with. Because we have so much data, like who's analyzing all these things to be able to say, hey, we could do without this contract because this one is giving us some of that data, this one is giving us some of that data, and then us being able to pull from the different sources without having then another contract, because that one gives us two different data points that the other ones didn't, but 30 of them are still the same. Like, I think that's what we're going towards. Like, how can we eliminate some of these things that kind of cross paths, especially around, you know, some of these data things, because we have a lot of pulling up data, but then I don't see a lot of movement when it comes to like, hey, we've been working with this for community schools, but there still isn't a vision. There still isn't a path. And we've been contracted out for many, many years around community schools, right? So I think those are some of the questions where we need answers to before we move forward with some of these things for many, many more years.
Okay, so it's 9:59, so, do we need to continue discussion after the break or can we vote? Okay, let's vote then. Labor, how do we feel about keeping or eliminating this contract? Sure. Christine? Okay, 3 unsure is 1 keep. And your recommendations to keep.
My recommendation is to keep with knowing that we'll be going every year and we can build contracts.
Agree. Okay. I know.
I mean, I think we need to revisit this contract. I'll put it on the contingency that this is a year by year, but we also need to look at what changes we're doing internally to be able to support pulling back from the reliance on outsourcing.
Yes. I agree with that. Okay, so let's, we are, for the public, we are going to recess for 15 minutes. We should be back hopefully by 10:15. So thank you for sticking with us. And for all of us, I think we're heading to the field.
Okay. Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you. I'll talk to you. Okay, bye. Bye.
Okay. Are we all ready? Are we? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. No. When it's not used in a small group.
Are we live?
It's. Are you recording? Okay, we will now call this, meeting back into session at 10:20 AM, and we will continue now with the sped department.
Okay, good morning, everyone. The first contract for special education is First Student Incorporated. They provide transportation, for students, who have that service in their IEP. This, comes out of general fund. This was put out to a RFP and this is the company that won the contract. We are in year 3 of a 5-year contract. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
There'll probably be a few contracts for sped specifically that are either long-term or that we all know just going to keep, in which case I will probably just move us quickly. Unless there's specific questions. This is one of them, which we need to have sped transportation. So are there any specific questions about this contract? And if you'll recall, last year in the sped department, they had a conversation with our student about changing routes to see if we could find some savings to make them a little more efficient. And that conversation has continued. So that's still happening.
and there are ways in which we can look at programming as well to reduce that. Having more, or reducing the specificity of certain programs to be just at certain school sites and being able to serve students at their home schools. So that's some of the work that we're doing already.
And part of the business development plan was to reduce the number of routes and reduce this contract for next year.
And what's it gonna be reduced to?
The target is to from 14 million to 13.
And I see there's still an open amount for about 7 million. Is it because they haven't charged us for the last few months or?
So these were pulled as of January 31st.
Oh, okay.
So at the time, we hadn't had December's invoices. As of today, we do have, I think through February billed out. You want an updated number on this one?
No, I guess my question is whether or not.
We are on track to spend about 14, maybe 14.2 or 3.
Okay.
Just maybe slightly over.
Thank you.
Based on gas prices that we pay for.
Mark?
So, I think the, idea of the contract going down, as we consolidate routes and look at that is great. I just know because my husband is a school bus driver that districts don't often monitor who's on the bus, what routes actually have students. And I know, Rodrigo drove for Santa Rosa, an 85 passenger bus with nobody on it for months. So, it is incumbent upon the district to check because the company will just keep sending out the bus, right? Because so it is incumbent upon us to see who's on it and whether it makes sense, the arrangement.
Thank you. Mr. Freshman, did you want to respond to that?
We do have students on all of our buses.
Good.
We also, most of the buses, are much smaller. We don't have the 85 passenger buses. They're much smaller buses and they have anywhere from, there probably are a couple because of the students at a school site. It's 1 or 2 kids or 3 kids on a bus. It may hit multiple school sites in the area, but most are having 5, 6 kids or so. Plus 30 bus heads and things like that. So, just anecdotally and from being at school sites, I've never seen an empty bus. I've also never seen a bus that had less than 3 or 4 kids. Typically.
Great. Thank you. Superintendent? Oh, I'm sorry, I just jumped this right through. Kim, and then we'll go on to the superintendent.
Listening to what's been said at the board meetings on the tracking and the buses, basically the GPS being able to communicate with the bus drivers that is updated now, and I also see that all buses are, EVH. So is that helping to bring down the costs at all?
I'd have to defer to Jeff on the DH issue.
I don't think any person,
Yes, they are. I have personal knowledge of that one, so I'm just curious if that is helpful.
no, the contracted rates are flat for the 5-year agreement.
Well, curiosity, I mean, we're all paying anywhere between $4.50 and $25 a gallon, so depending on it,
Do not go there.
but
$25.
is it doesn't go into the cost of the gasoline, it doesn't go into effect. But I do know that they are using environmentally friendly buses now. My grandkids were on them last year, so I know that that's a true fact, so that's, I mean, and I've driven behind them just to double check once in a while after listening to the board members. You know, if they're actually, you know, how they're doing. But the GPS portion of it, I know is a fact. And is that helping with some of the issues that we've been having with the bus drivers? Not knowing where they are, tracking them, being able for safety measures and stuff like that.
So when those questions are, I reach out to the bus company, they can give me a minute by minute accounting of where that bus has been throughout the entirety of the route.
I just, it takes care, I'm sorry, President, I just think it takes care of some of the questions that I've listened to at the board meetings on the safety of students on the buses. Yes, I have been listening to her every week that she's there.
Yeah, my question is around. So we looked at the contract last meeting, the independent pickup. Are we
First off, the individual pickups.
Looked at
via? So are we also using via for some of our special education students? I've heard that we are.
No,
There are some students who receive resource support only, so they're in the RSP program. They could qualify for via services,
but not as a part of their.
but not as a part of their IEP, correct?
They could do via through
Through
community,
general education.
general ed, just like any other student, but that's not an IEP service. So there may be a student that has special ed that's getting that service, but it's not a function of special education.
And I think we were talking about transportation last week about how the via was more economical than the actual bus routes. I mean, if we're having a couple of students, I mean, is that a way that we could kind of figure out what students qualify under that program to try to then eliminate some of the IEP, or what is the difference? I mean, directly.
I'm not familiar with VIA. I know that we do a very large number of student transportations through all the first students. So I don't know if we would have to pass them.
No, I was just gonna say that at the transportation through special education, it is a service written in their IEP. For transportation for a student who is in special education, it requires service, but not, it requires transportation, but not necessarily as a service. Then we had this option over here.
Okay, my next question that falls, do we have any students that fall under the chronically absent that are in special?
Yes.
So then, knowing that they're chronically absent, would that be one of the marks to be able to use the other service?
Yes. So, I don't want to overspeak Dr. Fleischman here, but the students who are receiving services, some of them are in our mild to moderate support needs program, and some of them are in our extensive support needs. We have not explored transporting students through VIA who require an extensive amount of services. These are students who can get on the student transportation without an adult and be able to be transported to full data. And so typically these are students who are in our resource program.
If we have students with IEPs that are chronically absent. We have to start the SAR process, but we also go to IEP and we discuss this transportation, the reason why they're missing school, and if that's the case, then we're added as a service, but then again, that will go through first student or first alt as opposed to VIA. Because it sounds like VIA doesn't have necessarily the training or the licensing that first student, first alt does to specifically support. So.
How many students are we approximately serving under this contract?
The total number of students I would have to get. But it won't take you long to do that.
That's right on my table.
Okay, any additional discussion? Okay, let's move to superintendent. We heard from Mr. Carter, the goal is to reduce it to 13 million already. What's your recommendation?
I think that that's realistic. We're trying to, in terms of those measures.
Now, just to clarify, that was part of our plan already, so it doesn't count, or it's unfortunately. Exactly. But, okay.
That's for Nick.
Okay, let's move to the vote. Labor? Yes, okay. Yes, and I'm a yes as well. Thank you. Mr. Fleshman, Dr. Fleshman.
Okay.
Why are you doing that? I think I've known you so
That's
long
fine.
that I gave Dr. Fleshman, no, you deserve it. Dr. Fleshman, please.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so Zen Educate provides us for professionals. This is our first year working with them. You may recall that part of the reason why we moved to employ them at such a high rate in our first year is because they have a plan to support direct hire after 170 days of working with the district. So they actually encourage their folks to become direct employees of the district. So we're closing in on the first year, so should be potentially hiring a lot of those folks on for next year as direct hires. And yeah, they provide very professional classroom support.
Thank you. Are there questions on this one? Otherwise, I have a lot of questions, but okay, yeah, figured, okay. Kim and then Francisco.
So with the paraprofessional hires, have we already started posting and getting them ready? So that they can apply and get into those positions?
Yeah, so those positions all already exist. They are open PCNs. We don't put, outside of an extreme situation, we don't put a contracted employee in until there's a PCN already generated in a position there. So they're filling in positions that already exist. And we have the postings up for paraprofessional ones.
So yes, so hiring for paraprofessionals.
So the contract for, technically 180 days they're in, right? So we're doing 170 days and they get to apply? I don't understand that. Why didn't we go 180 days to get the position? Position they've been setting up position technically.
Well, each individual has the right to apply to the district. And so the Zen encourages their people to do that once they've met those number of days of working within the district, and then they can apply. Now, granted, there's non-competes. Non-competes are not honored, so they could do it at any point. Zen encourages their people to do so. So it's not that we needed it, but it's I don't know how to say it other than that, whereas some companies would not want that to happen, Zen's whole model is that they bring people on, they contract them with your district, and then after about a year, they encourage them to apply to be a full-time employee.
But after a year, not before a year.
Correct. Now granted, like I said, non-competes are no longer honored in the state of California, so they could, at any point, if that individual decided they would rather work directly with the district they are representing, they can apply.
And are we consistently encouraging them to do that?
All the time.
Francisco, then the president.
After the 175 days worked, does the $3,500 fee apply to each person?
No,
No. Just one
No.
flat fee?
There's a
Because there's a
hiring
clause right
fee.
here.
If you look at the paperwork, you say the upfront hiring fee shall be $3,500 for behavioral aides to cover SENS operational costs. This fee reduces by $20 for each day the educator works at the district.
right, so once they've worked that, then that fee is no longer applicable. Like if they found somebody and we hired them on day one. Like here's Guthrie, he's gonna be a paraprofessional, go ahead and hire him, there's the finding fee. But as the longer they work, that fee goes down, and then after 170 days,
Well, it's not.
there's no fee.
But it's per person. Or is it just a flat fee for the whole?
No, it'd be per person, but after, like I said, there's no fee, that's why we have the, day's work, so, yeah. 175 reduced by 20 for each day, comes out to the 35%.
It's 175 days at $20 a day and $35.
Right. So there's no zero fee to this.
So if we hired them today, we'd be paying $20 times how many days are left.
So,
So we're gonna wait and hire them for next year after they're free to hire.
So if they were to hire them February, they would pay $20 every day, February, March, April, May,
As a finder's fee.
as a finder's fee.
we would hire them before the 175 days work?
Right.
So basically, they have to stay within the company for 175 days. And then we have the option they have the option to, but if they come to us before the 175,
We pay
then
them.
we pay them to that person.
Get a company with.
Yeah.
The
The finder's fee.
What do we pay them per day for each person?
If you scroll up,
Yeah, it's
right
their
there,
hourly,
the hourly rates.
Hourly rate,
So if you scroll, if you look at that chart there, they essentially let us set the number. And so, they asked us, like, what are you willing to pay? And so when we said 41.51, that means that the aide is gonna get $27 an hour. If we said we're willing to pay $37.90, that means the aide gets $24 an hour. Correct.
Or it says the average is $40.
Right.
50 cents. Per aid, and there's 125. Any additional questions? How many of the 125 do we believe we could hire next year? Or are going to go to the district?
I would have to talk to our teams or not. I'd be disingenuous to say a number right now because I really don't have the data to inform that. Other than that, I know that's going to be a big push. I know that with the vision contracts, it's much more appealing to work for a different vision, especially with, rate increases and then as well as the insurance that the benefits increases as well. So we are anticipating more hiring and what we found before, when we close out some positions and when some raises happen before, as people start to sign on and join the district, the number of positions available become less and less. It becomes less appealing to work for the contracting agency because you don't have ownership of the job. And so we found that we did see a surge last fall. I think we had about 25 to 50 that came over in a big surge because they saw the writing on the wall that it's more beneficial to work. So I do anticipate that too.
Yeah, the reason why I'm a little bit, I would love obviously for us to dig deeper into that is because if we are hiring a large number of them, there could be potentially less need next year, right? I mean, I think there's probably gonna be need anyways, but less need next year, which means less liability on a future contract, right? Which means that we could see a reduction automatically. But there's no way for us to know that yet. And it'd be really hard for us to arbitrarily say we're gonna cut it by $2 million, right? Without knowing, so, yeah. What would be what do you guys think would be a realistic timeline for us to be able to survey all 125 to ask them if they'd be willing to come to the district? The reason I ask because obviously with our deadline, if we could have that information before the contract committee finishes their work, we could then put a recommendation forward of like, you know, however much we can. Yeah.
I think when's the last?
Well, we're adding another meeting, but most likely the first week of May.
Okay, I think in a couple of weeks, probably we could get, so that's not next week, but the following. We could probably get some survey of those folks and see who's expecting to switch over.
So in the fiscal solvency plan, we contemplated closing 50 positions of paraprofessionals. We gave out a 5%, 3%, and the spec paraprofessionals are going up 2 ranges on top of that. So to incentivize more people to be hired by the district as well as benefits increases. So the goal would be to fill all the vacancies and not lose. We really only go to these when we don't have a hiring pool and we need to provide the IEP services. There will be a slight savings, but we're just moving, when we hire all these people, we're moving the expenditures from the 5s to the 2s. So there won't be necessarily a dollar amount that you can just say cut because the expenditures are just moving. The district will still have them, and we're paying more than we were last year. So I don't know that there's a dollar amount savings, net savings, even if we were at 100% staffing.
I think to this point, like since we've negotiated the rates down so significantly from the last couple of years, it's kind of a wash as far as how much we pay the contractor forces. It's desirable to have direct employees, right? And have folks have union positions and all those things.
I can't hear you guys at
Oh,
all.
I'm sorry. Just that we've negotiated the rates down significantly over the last couple of years with these agencies. And so to Jeff's point, it's not a significant difference in expenditure. Obviously, there's a difference in function, right? We'd rather have folks directly hired, we'd rather have them be members of Teamsters, all of those things. But to Jeff's point, it'll be out of the contracts and into the 2000s because it's paying our own folks, but it's not necessarily going to decrease the budgets.
What is the cost for us to hire an internal para? Like the average?
So you can see, well, the average.
Yeah, like a year, like I said.
Pair 1, 2, and so there's pairs 1, 2, and 3. And so that those are all, if you said.
Majority of them are Majority of them are 3s, and we would average typically step 3, so 42,000 plus benefits.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that $27 an hour, which is higher than what they are making with Zen. Once Zen takes their cut. So that's the incentive for them to come to us, as well as we then have to pay health benefits and fringe benefits on top of this.
So we would, I mean.
Somewhere around 60, 65.
I mean, just taking the total cost of the contract by the 125 positions, that's 43,000 per person. I know that's not how much they make, but if we divide it simply by that, so it is potentially going to cost the district more to have everybody in-house.
Yeah, but once you have to offer benefits, sick leave, vacation time, like the internal benefits above and beyond the salary itself will cost more than contracting out, but that's true for all contract services. We're talking about bringing in-house.
It's a good thing, but I just want to, even if we propose to your point.
But it would be less than the 5,000.
Right, which is, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think to me this is what, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's hard to predict the number that we may need at any given time. Only because we have, throughout the year, as you know, we all know, we are constantly like assessing, evaluating students, updating or originating IEPs where, once it's written into, once it's written, that's the obligation, that's the responsibility. So I guess, just wanting to, having spent some time now in the sped department and realizing it's like, yeah, we can plan for X number and then things will happen. Or even as students come in with IEPs, right, students coming into the district, so on and so forth, if that has been identified in their previous district, that the district has an obligation to provide that support. I think kind of the larger question, if we're looking at like systemically, what do we need to talk about? Maybe we need to talk about a more robust recruiting team around classified positions and making sure that we can put some energy into that. Which I actually think then eliminates the need to be looking to outside resources like this. And I'm sure that anybody who's over a department would be like, yeah, we would love to have, more people in HR to do some really targeted to fill positions internally. And I'm sure, for my labor partners here, I'm sure that they would like to see that as well.
It does seem to be right now the right time to reach out to all these folks. You don't have to do what I asked, by the way, obviously you respond there on the savings, but I think to reach out to these folks and encourage them to stay with us, right? Show them the increase is coming, healthcare package, right? And encourage them to stay. I know that some principals do that, right? But I think it might be beneficial for us to specifically reach out to them and say, hey, we would love for you to be here. I don't know if that's already part of your plan. If it is, please just say, but I think it seems to be the right time right now that we are competitive before everybody around us raises it, right? So I think this is the right time to get stuff like that.
Yeah, we've had recruiting initiatives, we've had, posters in classrooms that show our benefits of, protection, benefits, all of those things. Owning your job as opposed to, having someone that just come here at the moment, those type of things. So, and we have our teams, encouraging them, and particularly those that are really strong, principals will kind of nudge and talk to them, and, so it's both formally and informally happening to us.
Okay, well,
do not want to survey it, that's what I'm hearing.
no, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's something that you guys probably should or want to, have in a chart, but yeah, but not for this.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Additional thoughts? Mark? Yeah. So it sounds like the goal is to reduce this, hopefully completely, right? To then switch it to internal folks. So it's not so much voting to keep it. I guess the question would be a vote in case of the need assistant.
Were we still gonna, at a future meeting or whatever meeting, see whether how many of these folks are willing to come back in the fall as district employees?
Well, I just didn't, that was going to say, but maybe we should.
Said no.
Is that up to?
I mean, I said maybe it's not necessary, because
Oh,
we won't save, like, our purpose to find savings,
Right.
we will save. I think it would be very interesting to know, right? But,
Well, so talking about the fall, like that'll be very apparent when we look at our roll sheets in the fall, and we see we're at 60 people right now, because based on the reductions and direct hires, just the number of people that we're employing with them. So I think that'll come out naturally, unless there's a request for doing that in that regard. Am I still talking too quietly? Sorry, I apologize.
Very quiet.
I was just saying that we will have that data in the fall when we run our spreadsheets and we look at all of the positions in the district and look at which ones are directly filled and which ones to contract out. And you go to the same and we say, hey, we need 60 people, we need 80 people, we need 120 people, etc. So that will be created naturally, what Francisco requested.
okay, well. Sorry. Do we?
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, is it possible for the board to direct the staff to use this as a de minimis fashion, and if there's a need to augment the use of this arrangement, to come to the board and discuss it before going all in on that?
And what do you mean, just? So, what are you talking about, Mark? Are you talking about minimizing this contract, like, putting it back? I mean, my only concern with that is because we don't know what moves. I think once we have the data, and that's the goal of the board, I think it all falls on the board, right? What do we hold, accountable? And I think because we're having these conversations, is once we see how many people are actually applying, because we can get a commitment and they still won't follow through, right? So it's like, once we see the numbers, I think in the fall and say, hey, we actually had, then we kind of go back and hold that accountability. So like, we need to do a stronger push to bring on more people, but I would be afraid, I would have concern and to reduce it because we don't know what internally we're able to do, and I don't see the structure right now that can make me feel comfortable with doing some of that work, especially because we're trying to bring in so many things in-house. I would want the superintendent to kind of say, this is the direction we're going, because at the end of the day, it falls on the board, but it also falls on having our superintendent really be focused on making this action, really move.
I just would like to point out that every single person that is employed from Zen, and this will be true of ProCare and Stepping Stones, et cetera. Every single one of the people that is employed through them is either required by a student's IEP or required by our contractual numbers. So there's nobody here that is a, just a choice or a decision that we just wanted to bring an extra person on. And so I say that to say, if we reduce it and people don't choose to hire, or then we're just gonna have to turn around back and increase it versus, if we do hire those folks, we can reduce in the fall the numbers, right? But we don't have a choice to not hire.
But the goal is always to make these contracts as low as possible.
Yeah.
Based on.
But the budget's approved in June, so y'all have to make that choice then. So if we wait for the fall for that data to come out, is there the possibility for you all to change that?
So we budget the dollars in the twos or the fives. So like, we're still gonna budget the same dollar amount. It just depends on where we're gonna budget it. We'll budget more in the twos depending on hiring, but dollar amount will still need to be budgeted in June. We just don't know if there's a bunch of vacancies, we'll have to move that vacancy money down to the fives to pay for a contract like this. So the dollars will still be budgeted based on the FTE we have.
I just think that, I want to ask our board leaders to be cognizant that the history is millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars every single year beyond what you've approved for these kind of contracts. So saying we want to see, or I don't want to cut it, it is way beyond anything that anyone ever foresaw or that was approved in the past. And now it's like these astronomical levels. So I just wanted to point that out. And it's going to be incumbent upon our board to keep an eye on this and to give specific direction about changes that you want, because it's just going to continue to go if history is any guide.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the board or majority of the board has been pretty clear on not wanting these contracts, right? And I think to some extent even staff doesn't want these contracts. We would all prefer to have an internal. I think that as we budget for June, in my opinion, I would want to see it all in the twos, right? And if the need arises in September, right, of course, it will just get moved to the fives, right?
Sure.
That's a possibility, isn't it?
Yes, you will then see the fives at first interim potentially increase.
Right.
And you'd be more than what you board approved in the fives. But as long as everybody's aware, it knows that that would happen, we can budget it in the twos.
I think that's just a little more transparent. I mean, I think that we all know what's happened, right? But I think it's more transparent for anyone who's looking at our budget for the first time. They'll understand like, okay, they couldn't hire 50 paras, so of course they had to contract it out, right? So this is when that gets reflected. But I think that to the point, it's more of a statement of like, if we put it right away on the fives, it's almost like we're saying like, well, we know we're not gonna make it, right?
Yeah.
Even though I
the
think
last-
realistically, we all know we're not gonna probably hire 125 people, right? And we are gonna have to somehow contract out. It's more of a statement as a district, right? Like, we're putting it into our people if we need to, we'll move some of this. Right?
Yeah.
I guess.
Agreed. We've known historically, we're just not gonna be able to hire all 125 vacant positions.
Right.
And so just realistically, you would wanna budget it where you know it's gonna be spent. Rather than make a huge swing from twos to fives, but sure, we can budget it there. You will just likely see a first interim. I need to increase it based on the number of vacancies we've had about the first 3 months.
We've done that every year.
Uh,
Now we'll understand it better.
So for Zen and ProCare specifically, though, we budgeted in the fives knowing that we probably won't be able to hire for it. If we are going to intentionally budget in the twos, knowing that it's gonna switch to the fives, it's gonna be seen that it's gonna increase in the fives.
I think that we can say that. I think that even in June, we can say, you know, after hearing the board, right? And I think we can confirm this with the full board, right? Is they want to make a statement that we want to invest in our people, so the board and the community will most likely see an increase in contracts first interim if we're not successful in hiring in the fall, right? I think that it's totally fair to say that in the June adoption, right? Because that's realistic, right? But I think that this also goes into what is our statement as a district, right?
Gunther?
I just want to lift up that every single district in the Bay Area is utilizing contracted services. Similar to us, and majority or will have more contractors, particularly in the certificated areas, than what we have. I understand making a statement to our community. I understand stating like our goal. I think every single person at this table, every single person that draws a paycheck from West Contra Costa Unified School District would prefer to not have to have contracting agencies and have everything internal. 100% agree with that. I would fear that telling our community that we're gonna fill all of these positions before the school year starts is over promising on something that we're probably gonna underfund. Would be my only fear about it. And so, I think it, to Jeff's point, we are setting ourselves for coming back in first interim with a huge increase in the, you know, 1 million, 2 million, whatever increase in the 5,000s. That would be, it's a very lofty goal. Let's hire everybody. 100% agree that that should be our goal. I just, you know, we talk about SMART goals in education, right? Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? 0 in the 5,000s. I don't. Unfortunately, right now, today, I don't think that that's a reality for the fall. So I think I'm with Jeff here that we should hedge.
Yeah, like 60% in the twos, 40% in the fives, and let the swing happen and just minimize the swing. We really don't want to go from a $5 million swing in the fives.
See what you're saying? Yeah, I mean, I think this reminds me of our legal conversation, right? But like, I think I want us to push ourselves, right? Not just through our actions, but also our budgeting, right? Because our budgeting is a reflection of what we believe in. And I think that even though I think it would be more realistic to also show like, yeah, we're gonna contract out. I don't think going into that, not knowing that we're not gonna contract, like I think we're gonna have to, like I just don't think that there's people enough out there that will know or learn about our benefits to hire everyone, right? Or steal everywhere in San Francisco. But I think that it's more of a statement. And I think that whether we put it in the 5,000 in June, or we put it in the contracts in December, I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's just, I think, to me, making more a statement earlier of what we believe in as we pass our budget. But I hear you guys. I mean, I'd be open to, like, what would a middle ground be? Like, what the discussion that we had about legal services? Because we're gonna need them as well. Kim and then Pedro.
So, I hear what you're stating, but I'm also hearing what our members are seeing and what we're looking at. By automatically putting the money into contractors, you're saying, oh, we're not even gonna bother with you. I don't believe in that. I believe that we should be focusing toward looking at that. We're working with people that have been losing jobs constantly. And us focusing towards, as a district, hiring permanent people and putting that money automatically towards that focus is a lot better than coming back to us as classified leaders and saying, oh, we don't have that money there, it's in the contract. We have to move the money over in order for us to get to that position so that we can hire somebody in a permanent position, because there's no funding in that source. And then we have to wait 6 months for it to go through a whole process. Why aren't we doing that now? And then if we have to contract out, move it to the other venue. I would rather see it that way, because then we're giving hope to our membership that they are gonna get a job, and to these 125 people that we're gonna have a position for them, rather than we're gonna sit there and continue to contract to another area. And looking at this, they have to be employed for 175 days. Well, that's just like anything else. They get sick or something else happens, then it's not 175 days that they have continuous employment with that. It's a day-to-day program for them at that point in time, looking at the contract. And usually how contractors work. So it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation, but I would rather, from the SSA point of view, put the money towards our goal to hire permanent people rather than continue to put the money towards a contracting agency. I get having to have some in their contract. I see you're listening to you saying 60-40. How about 60 on our side, 40 on their side at the very most?
Yeah.
And I know there's specialties. I would rather see it be a 70-30, honestly, and really focus towards that. I think that logistically, I mean, I know there's feeding tubes, there's different things that have to be done, but having the contractor, having this contract go back.
And we're gonna go Pedro, Mark, I think the president, and then Dr. Fletcher.
Yeah, I see, the trustee's points about Tornado is giving our members hope that, yes, our goal is to have employees, have people in here. Yes, we know that contracting is probably gonna be, because it's something that's required. We can't operate without them. But putting it in there or even a higher percentage, like, Kim just said, would, give them that hope that it allows that we're actually trying to go that way. And you brought other districts. Well, other districts and us are not in the same position. So it really doesn't matter what other districts are doing, because what really matters is about this district, the kids here. And just like I said, money in the other districts and money here is different, so. But I said, I applaud you.
Thank you. I'm gonna plot it out. Mark,
I don't have anything to say.
no, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had anything. Okay, Guthrie and then.
Well, one, I want to appreciate both Kim and Pedro, the way that you frame that, and that's really important. I just want to clarify and question, when you say 70-30, are you saying 70-30 of this number or 70-30 of the total? Because we do have, I think 300 district employees who are already. So are we saying that is part of the 70% and we're saying of the whole big number, or 70-30 of this number?
This number,
The contract.
so it's contracted.
So when I'm down, so for the June budget, I'm not budgeting for sped, I'm not budgeting it towards that or towards ProCare, I'm just budgeting the total number of vacant sped paraprofessionals times their salary, et cetera, as a lump sum into their 5890 account. Then they use that same account code for,
All the different contracts.
Yeah.
I'm saying towards all the different contracts. Test. Let's get it towards for permanently hiring. I understand. I truly do understand having to do specialized care with some contracts. I do understand that. The mindfulness of what those people do. I get that, but I also want us to start focusing and putting towards our HR to get more people hired permanently from within our district. We used to do it better, and we're cutting back on a lot of our students. Our special ed is changing. California special ed is changing, and I understand that, and I want us to look toward that whole focus also. Do we have good quality parents going into the classroom that we can communicate with, or are we having to go through a vendor constantly to communicate with them? It's better for us to go through our own memberships within our district than to have to go to a third party. And that's where I'm looking for, is that I want our kids taken care of by our own.
Thank you, President, you were gonna say something. Okay, sorry. So it sounds like the proposal on the table is that, we're not saving anything, but just that when we budget, the proposal is that we put 60% of where we're putting into the 5,000s into the 2,000s moving forward. And we keep 40% in the 5,000s. And then it'll show our motivation, it'll show our goal, and it'll show our statement of value, right? With the caveat that we know that this is service we need, right? So it's not really a saving whatsoever, but it's more of our value of wanting to move to
specifically to paraprofessional.
paraprofessional
Yeah.
contracts. Yes. So how do we feel about that? Are we okay with the 60-40 then? Seems like a compromise.
Does that encompass sand, well care, stepping stones, SPG? Or are we just talking about?
For paraprofessional, the lump sum amount, it will affect all of those, yes. We
Yes.
use
For all
paraprofessional
of
services
them.
out of most of those.
Keeping in mind, we get, some of those other ones provide also.
Other services, yeah, so, yeah, specific to paraprofessionals in this budgeting.
Okay, so we're talking about Sam Pro Care, police, stepping stones. Is there another one?
SPG,
SPG,
Emergis is healthcare, that's LPNs and whatnot, it's very few paraprofessionals, if any from them. Ed Therapy provides staffing, although that's certificated. That's full.
sorry, Mr. Curry, is there any way that you can like highlight them for us so that
Yeah.
we know all of them and then? So, Superintendent, just to catch you up, the proposal is that, we don't eliminate any contracts, and we all understand the need for these services because they're part of IEPs, right? So they're legally mandated.
Yes.
The proposal is just that, as part of our budgeting, when we approve the budget in June for next year, that we show as a statement of value because we want to transition people to our budget to be here in our position, that we just show in the budget in June that 60% of what we're putting into these contracts will be moved to the 2,000s, which is the salary for employees. Thank you. And then we retain 40% in the 5,000s. And then of course, if we're not able to hire enough people, then we'll need additional funding to put into the contract. So then that would just be shown in the first interim. But instead of putting it all into the 5,000s in June, we're making a statement as a district that we are trying to invest more in our people and hire them in-house. But if that's not achieved, obviously we have to hired outside, right? So,
So in terms of an efficient budgeting, the funds aren't disappearing.
No,
They're being
they're
reallocated in
40.
another place, and if needed, they could be moved back to the 5,000, so we don't have, we're not able to hire fully.
That's fine, yeah, I'm just, again, specific to paraprofessionals. Because these contracts.
yes,
are
just
not-
for paras,
Yeah,
just for
These
paras.
are- There's other job duties and.
As of this moment. Cause
Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be
yeah.
discussion for other
Yeah.
jobs, but so this one, we're just talking paras.
Yep. And just for clarity, you asked to highlight, it's pretty much everyone that says an NPA, so not public agencies.
Oh, okay,
Those are the staff. It says NPA, that's essentially. They provide that.
oh, okay, we contract that more than paras, right? So
Correct.
is it just paras or like, does that include speech?
The NPAs cover all services,
Okay,
but I think what we're talking for 60/40 is specific to paras.
specific to paras, yeah, that's why if you could highlight them.
It wouldn't be
okay.
all the MPAs though, you've got.
All the NPAs do not give paras.
Got
That's
it.
correct.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. Okay, so the ones that are highlighted right now are the ones that we're discussing about the 60/40, just change of, how we budget, but we're not reducing it, or anything like that. It's just making the statement.
Allocating to a
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
On the hope that we hire and fill all the vacancies.
Yeah.
And it would all go to the dues. But
So let's vote on that. Sorry, are you okay with that?
Great.
Let's vote on that. Wonderful. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Is there a way to show it in the sheet right now so that we don't have to go into those contracts?
do you not want to talk about those contracts for the other services they provide other than paraprofessionals?
Well, maybe people do want to talk about that. Okay, never mind, let's just keep going. Do you guys want to continue? Do you guys want to talk about the other contracts that do para work, or does this fulfill kind of the
I'm
need to
good with the
discuss?
para work, but there's other indications in those. For certificate.
Yeah, we're not gonna skip through the other positions being outsourced, it's more just
With the
the
para work.
paras,
Okay.
yeah.
So in there, in Procare's contract, you're saying LVNs.
That's all. So like, we would still need to talk about these, we would just not talk about paraprofessionals that are pro care.
Okay. Okay, well, never mind, we can move on to Procare.
Procare is overwhelmingly majority, professionals. I'd have to go look and see what other staff we have through them. I know they put all of those because they staff all of those positions, instead of just contact pairs and RMTs. I don't believe we have any LPNs, or psychs or speech, through Procare.
Questions? On Procare? Hearing that?
Well, is the intent of the district to continue using ProCare even though or that Zen is a preferable option for its paraprofessional services?
So this year, Procare being new to California, being new to our district, told us that they felt they could get 125. And that was the kind of the capacity that they could fill. We knew we had more vacancies than that, so that's why we went to Procare. Ideal scenario would be that we would get down below the 125 number. Use the number of contractors that we have. This year we had to go back to Procare based on the overall need. I should lift up that Procare has offered kind of more incentives if they see their contract diminishing in our district, and so they offered to reduce their hourly rate significantly from last year to this year, or from this year to next year. And then they also have offered, and I'm only offering this information as so everybody has this information that I do. As the contract increases, the hourly rate would decrease. Down below, if we hit 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, that they would continue to drop their hourly rate. So
So they
the
propose,
intention was always to have.
they propose an incentive rebate program, so the more we spend with them, the more discount we get with them. So if we go over the 5 million threshold, we get, 5% discount. So we used them this year as an addition to Zen, because Zen could only provide 125, but we had 200 vacancies, so we used them for the other 75, because Zen couldn't handle our capacity. If Zen can provide all the vacancies next year, we have preferred to go with them because of the hiring structure, that we can internally hire them from them. Whereas Procare doesn't have that option. The more you spend with Procare, the more we would get as a rebate from them in their newly proposed plan for next year.
Sorry, everyone, just clarifying about this contract. It's just 1 second.
So, I do that whole. We want to, we want to. So for that's how we do it, is what we're trying to do. Okay. Hey, the child has been through my front half of the 20s. I mean, that's kind of go like this, get things out, but not see all the steps about it. I did let her know. But you need time, I feel.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, everyone. We just wanted to clarify about whether or not this contract, this service, is even available for us next year. So the discussion would be, this would be part of our goal for the 60/40. But then also we would prioritize, obviously, internal first, Zen. And then if there is still need on top of that, then at that point, we would consider Procare. But it would be kind of like in a rating of like you know, it will be the last,
What about Zen?
then would be the first choice. So obviously our first choice would be to hire in-house. Second choice, if we need them, would be to go through Zen. But then if we still need more than what Zen can offer, then at that point, ProCare would be considered.
Is there a commitment that has to be made to grow care? Like, do we have to lock in a certain amount? Or is it just on an as needed basis? Prioritizing, of course, hire, then with potential to hire, then ProCare to fill in any gaps if necessary.
But I mean, for the contract, I defer to Jeff, but ultimately, if we get into a contract for a certain amount and we realize we're not gonna need that much, then there's a process by which you sever a contract, so I don't know.
We would need to negotiate with ProCare to change the terms, because historically, we've locked in a number of aides from them, just knowing that we would need them. This year's a little different, knowing that we want to hire internally mostly, and we'll go with the capacity of that. We'll have to negotiate different terms with ProCare, see if they can provide it on an as-needed basis rather than locking in a specific number. We won't know what number that is with ProCare that we.
I mean, and you may not know, but like historically, or do you have any data like over the last couple of, well, I guess it would be this year. Because this is the first year I think the district worked with Zen, yeah?
Correct.
So what was it for this year? What were the
The
number?
number was gonna be extremely low this year with ProCare. But the number that Zen could provide, the 125, wasn't determined until late. And we had 200 vacancies, so we had to go back to ProCare and say, actually, if you raise it from 15 to 75, so we can tell our vacancies.
Okay.
And then during the strike, we have to go back to ProCare and say it's more for this period of time. So we will go back to ProCare with a low number.
Okay.
And then we, as an as-needed basis, increase it depending on how many we internally hire, how many is the capacity of staff, and then go back to ProCare with what we actually need.
So you want to make sure that in that negotiation, that is the question, it makes it sound like a statement, but it's really a question. So in going back to those negotiations with ProCare, even if you are adding on, you want to make sure that the same deal that they offered, which was the more people you hire, the bigger the rebate, is still in place.
Yeah, it's just, we would be unlikely to hit the thresholds of that rebate if we're not.
Because they have a.
Yeah, they have thresholds, yeah, like every million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the rebate, they'd have to be. Again, I was just lifting up some words where they'd have to be more of the lion's share of our staffing.
To hit
In order to offer that
Well,
particular.
to hit the rebate
To
threshold.
get that.
Yeah.
I think it starts at. Rebate threshold starts at 7, so we wouldn't.
You're not-
We'd have to, we'd be
Yeah, no,
eliminating.
the goal is not to be near that, absolutely.
Yeah, unless we went all in on ProCare, we get some savings, but that's not the priority, so.
Thank you.
So I'm doing, not really a question, but more of a comment, if we could distance ourselves as much as possible, ProCare from Soliant, from Sunbelt, as a district and speaking on behalf of UTR, these firms in particular they cost our district like $14.4 million. They're linked to, Project 25 or Project 2025, like the firm that backed Trump that recently deported one of our students, and it's just wreaking havoc on public education. So if we can do whatever we can to reduce these contracts, both as a local, statement against the national policies on our students, and because we're sending money over to Abu Dhabi, who, Soliant Health is acquired by some other private equity firm, that we don't need to be doing that. And so we're, making that statement about prioritizing our own internal stuff, our own community, really eliminating these 3 private firms from, as much as we can. If there's this year that, you know, it's providing a better service or something.
Okay, right, yeah.
No, okay,
I was like,
like, whoa, the smoking.
Hold on, Frank.
Sorry, Francisco.
Look, Guthrie has the same computer I do.
Okay. No, I don't see any.
That view is definitely blue.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the flat.
Right here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, I'm fully charged, so you can plug.
Okay, yeah. I'll plug both.
Unplug mode.
Yeah.
It's okay, this building was only 300 million though.
Computers are still working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need that second kill. Second kill.
Right.
Francisco, do you want to finish your thoughts?
Yeah, just
Not the
the
library.
three firms cost
Some-
the district $14.4 million, but it could have saved us
Okay.
5.8 if this hiring was done in-house. So if we could just limit, reduce as much as we can, our connection to Sunbelt, to ProCare, to Lion, I think we could be setting a stronger message as well.
Thank you. Does Procure part of Alliance then?
Yes. ProCare and Sunbelt are both owned by Lion.
The line is the one that was bought in 2024 by an equity firm.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And this equity
So-
firm is doing work with ICE, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think Francisco's point is really, really important, really well taken, and of course, we want to, you know, you vote with your dollars, right? That's all this. How do we safeguard ourselves in the future? Particularly when there are people that are attached to these contracts that are in classrooms and that are, like, how do we, if a situation like this comes up again where we have a partner, that partner gets acquired, and now we have a philosophical objection. But if we walk away from that partner, there's a whole bunch of staffing and services that would be. How can we put things in place to where, I mean, the first answer is we hire everybody in-house and then we don't have to do this.
Right.
Ding, 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 ding.
We fixed it.
But short of that, there's and I'll just talk about like on the ground, when we have pivoted from one company to another, it's a lot of work, like Teamsters members that are the admin techs and the clerical staff that are managing these spreadsheets and that are dealing with these companies and assigning people and stuff. It's not a disagreement. I fully agree. We vote with our money and with our feet. And the thing that will then happen is that there's a lot of work that then will have that, a lot of very difficult work of making those functional shifts internally. It should just be paid for.
And students and parents that have relationships with their paraprofessional.
Yeah.
And swap it to a new service that individual would not be with their kid. And we've received.
That was a lot of that last year when we said we're not doing ProCare at all. I got flooded with parents saying, you know, my son's para is from ProCare and you cannot take that person away from my son. Right? And so there are down the line unintended consequences.
The only thing that I will say is that the board just approved the policy that specifically says that we will not do work with contractors that have any ties to ICE or the Trump administration last week. So by policy, we actually cannot work with ProCare moving forward, nor stepping stones. So I think that you guys as staff will have to have a conversation about that unless the board changes the policy. That got added. Yeah, like it came from Los Angeles. They were the first ones to do it, and then the governance committee. I was the one that asked that we included that in our policy moving forward. So uh, we will have to have a discussion. I don't think we need to, go any further into it here, but I think that, we will have to have a discussion on that for next year, and whether or not. If the services are needed to be contracted out, hopefully not, but if they are, and Zen can cover it, then we're gonna have to discuss, what happens after. And the effect of stepping stuff, so.
Stepping stones would be massive.
Okay, we're gonna go Kim, and then why don't we take a very brief recess?
So. On that note, then whoever is our new director of communications, community engagement needs to work with the contracting, regarding this and how we're pushing that information out. And the reason why, and quoting board policy, you quote ed code all the time. We can quote board policy and stating this is our reasoning and this is why we're walking away. And that way families understand we're doing this to protect your students. Not just because we don't want to do business with them, it's to protect your students. This is another level of it. And I get it, but that comes down to different communication on why, giving the why.
Great.
With board support.
Well, I don't think we need to vote because I think that we came to a
Came to a
organic resolution of the conversation. But can we take 5 minute recess? I think that so we can regroup. And we can talk about the next conference as well. So we'll be back in, sorry, this is weird. We'll be back. I have a takeover spirit. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
Sorry.
Okay, so we've had some really great discussion. Thank you for allowing us to have a little bit deeper conversation. So we are going to try to clarify some of the language and policy to get further details. So we're gonna agendize it for our governance meeting, which is actually happening in the next 2 weeks. So we're gonna pause on those contracts for a minute. To finish today, we're gonna go through the NPSs, and then we have our next meeting Tuesday, and then we're adding another meeting after that. So we will have time to revisit some of these conversations as well. Thursday. I'm sorry, I keep saying Tuesday. Then it's Thursday. Thank you. It's our full day meeting. Dr. Fashman Bastia.
Okay, so these are all our non-public schools where students are placed, based on their IEP needs. These will fluctuate based on the number of students that are placed, at any given school throughout the course of the school year. This is happening, real time at all times, through the IEP process. But these are the schools right now that we have placed students in throughout the course of the school year. Some we don't have any anymore. At that school, like the San Diego Center for Children, that student returned. So we don't have anybody there anymore. So, at the moment, there's no one. That's a residential placement, so that could be, we could find another student. At the moment, we don't have any there. The one that is slightly different, if you look at line, it's the second line, but it's line 13. It's 840,000 for 3 classrooms at our school site, formerly El Sobrante Elementary School. Now Catalyst, we contract with them for 2 classrooms to fill. So it's a large number, but we can put up to 30 students, place up to 33 students in a classroom there. And then they do enroll students from other districts, and we get some money back when the student comes. So that's why that one was enlarged. Line out of there, and that's why it's different. The others are just based on who's in the student.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Francisco.
You said that each one of these is for an individual student.
Individual students, so we may have several students at a given school. And they range depending on the types of services and the level of care that they range in per pupil price.
Are these monitored?
Annually, we have to send somebody to each of these school sites annually to observe and write a report. Also, the state monitors them as well. And we are NPS coordinators in regular communication with all of these schools, because we continue to be a part of the IEP process with those students.
Are these in state or out of state?
These are all in state. We don't have anybody out of state at the moment.
That's an improvement. We had it out of state in several last February contracts.
Yeah, we have in the past, there have been some issues with some of the out of state residential programs that have been widely publicized in the news. So, I think the oversight within the state of California is much better. So we've been working really hard to keep students in state. Like I said, right now, we don't have any students in residential.
Okay, any discussion on all these? Yeah.
So the IEP process, do we have to pay litigation for all of this every time we have to negotiate?
No.
Okay.
No.
We're not paying extra lawyer fees on top of having.
Some of these do come out of litigated cases, and some of these are just the IEP team all agreeing that the best placement next is to go to a not public school. So, yeah, I don't have the exact breakdown of how many came out of litigated and how many were not litigated, but it's, you know, sometimes there are many cases, probably I would say more majority is the IEP team agreeing went to non-public.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, we can't really vote to reduce them. Obviously, so are we all okay moving them forward? Yes. Francisco?
Yeah, just a separate question.
Sure.
Is a budget item for compensatory education and a part of the special education budget, and it wouldn't come out of any of these, not these contracted, but maybe the ones that were previously put in the that were taken out, that might have had either para or certificated.
So sometimes when we have compensatory education, if we don't have anybody internal that can provide that service, it does go to contract. So like, for example, SPG, which provides speech therapists, has done some of the compensatory education.
We still provide paras for these schools, or do they have their own? And that's also part of the,
So it's some, and some have their own and some we provide. And some that have their own, that's part of the billing is to pay for the student needs it. Oftentimes in the level of care is so high in the non-public school that a child that had a one-to-one in public school may not have a one-to-one when they go to the non-public because the staffing there is.
Okay, so let's vote. You okay? She supports it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we're moving forward with all these. Okay, so we are going to end our day at this point. One, because we have to run to another meeting. But then two, I think seems like an organic spot. So our, pass it on to the president.
Thank you, everyone. I think we have a lot of feedback to this meeting about, some conversations that were left open, but I want to thank everyone for coming out and joining us again today. Our next scheduled meeting will be April 30th. Fixed at the Pinole Valley High School Library. And I bring this meeting to adjourn.
I'm sorry, very fast.
Oh, we're going to
yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're going to Helm.
Yes, Helm Library, not the library, like a.
Room C2.
Okay, so we'll be at, no, so we update that on our agenda as well.
It's on there as Helm, but I'll add
It's
that.
on the Pinole Valley High School Library. I am reading it off.
Good.
On today's.
On today's.
Yeah, today's agenda.
At the bottom of today's agenda where it says.
Oh.
Next meeting. So next meeting will be then at Helms Middle School in San Pablo. Room C.
C2 115.
C2-115. And we are calling the meeting to adjourn at 11:51. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We're not sending another meeting. That meeting next Thursday, that's the ninth, you're asking for the ninth.
It's a 9 to 3, yeah, 9 to 2, 9 to 2,
June ninth, is it?
9 to 2.
9 to 2. Okay. And then,